Welcome to another episode of the Strange Motion Way podcast. I'm your host, Tim Strange, along with
Carrie Strange.
And then tonight we have our first retake
Yep.
because the echo or feedback
This is
or
official retake. Like we've had some that we've had to
add a second
add
part.
a second.
Yeah, because technology is not our friend.
This one was our first epic failure.
And he works someplace else now since the last time we did him. He now works at automotive group. He's wrote for Good Guys as a young guy article when he was still in school.
Which is when we met him.
Yep. He's shot our cars young. I think he might have still been in school when he shot our Speed Star, maybe.
I think so.
He worked for Buckaroo Publications. That was Street Rod Builder and Super Rod. He worked under some of the greatest photographers and journalists. One's been a guest on here, Steve Anderson. Yep. Another one, we have Scott Colleen coming up in a couple weeks. Recent years, you probably remember seeing his beautiful face at Advanced Plating. Then he was at Vintage Fabrication with the Schumachers,
yep.
Schumachers, great friends. And now he is at the Automotive Group. Welcome, Josh Mishler.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
So right from the start, we have props. He had desires to be the next Chip Foose. We have a prop here from 2001. Custom Rodder magazine. He's like, oh, bro, really? He did the artwork for our 53 Special Mint Riviera that was in a bunch of magazines. And it was our first car that we took to the SEMA show, actually. And it was in the Hot Rod Industry Banquet, which it was not HRA then. And our Riviera that went on to get in 6 magazines and 5 covers.
Damn.
Look at that. And then I almost hate to show this one. I dug this up. He did a big print.
Wow, it still exists?
Yeah.
It does.
And I almost didn't want to show this because I still want to build this car. I think this was about this. I'm going to say you did this in 2001. You did not date it.
Yeah, I would say it was right around that same time.
But it is
or warped, tilted.
Tilted how? It's a
on it.
56 Olds that you shortened and leaned back the windshield and made it a roadster. The only thing I would do now is I'd probably add like a Carson top to it, but maybe still be no side glass in it. I think the sun hates me. So, yeah. So that's pretty cool. I still have that. Yeah.
That's cool that you still got that, because you wonder when you create stuff like that by now it's long gone, But
yeah. It only took me about 20 minutes. Like, I thought it was in my office and it was.
Tim is what we call a pat rack.
Well, I'm kind of half in the middle of not moving, but changing my office and organizing magazines. And I haven't got in there for a while. So it's a little disarray. I really don't have anybody come to my shop, so it doesn't really matter. But I found that right after.
I think just about anybody that's into cars has a little bit of a pack rat in them. I think it's just part of it.
Yeah.
Yes.
So let's go back to little Josh. I know some of your early history, because we've been friends for, I don't know. How old were you? How old are you now? This is going to make me feel old.
43.
And we met you when you were. Did you have a driver's license yet when we met you?
No, the first time I met you was at Des Moines and you had the 54. That was the first time you did it. Well,
okay. Yep.
Yeah.
You may have done it once before and I didn't know it, but when it was cream and lavender and very pro street.
Yeah.
Which are like 94.
Last few months I shared a picture that I found, or you sent it to me, that he was shooting it from the back and I'm kind of standing in front of it. Like,
yeah, that would have been then.
So that would have been 93 or 4.
Yeah. As I say, because it's funny, I remember that, and then and one of the reasons that car stuck with me was because I was in middle school then. I do know that. And I know, sorry. And so that was summer, and then that following fall winter time there, one of the classmates I had in English, he was reading, it was in Super Chevy, right?
Mm-hmm.
hmm
He was reading Super Chevy and it had the car in it. And I was like, I saw that car. And he didn't believe me because, it's like, you didn't see no car that was in a magazine. I was like, no, seriously, I did. And I, brought receipts. I had pictures. So
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
confirm it. But yeah, I remember that. And then, of course, I remember the Chrysler you did right after it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I remember seeing the teaser shots in Good Guys
Mm-hmm.
when it was in bare metal, I think.
Yeah, they gave me like a 2-page spread with the chassis, and the body was going on the chassis, and the body was still like patinaed or bare metal or something. And the Hemi was sitting in the chassis and everything. So that was
So
you
I
guys trying.
remember we were coming into the Des Moines Fairgrounds, and I wasn't driving, obviously, because I didn't have a license at that time. My grandfather was driving, and I was like, "Oh, turn down there," because I could see it just kind of sticking out of the back of the trailer. And you were down there getting it out. We just kind of drove by slow and looked at it, and then I knew it was going to be over there. I think you were still putting a few finishing touches on it before you pulled it in
You're
there.
probably still cursing it.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
it was there at Des Moines when we first, but there was some stuff not done to it, and
That was back in
that
the
thing was still. I had the
1900s.
coilovers cranked so low. That was before air ride, or
hmm
before I was putting air ride on
Yeah.
it, and like we had to use boards to get it like in it. Drug all the way in because I wanted the coilovers cranked down. It looked like it had air ride dumped on the ground, but it was about that far off the ground. Yeah.
I said Chrysler, but it was a DeSoto, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's Chrysler
Yeah.
family. Yeah.
Yeah.
It had a Chrysler LHS roof on it though.
Yes. Do remember that. Of course, I remember the blower being out in front of the motor. That sticks in my head.
Yeah,
Oh,
like a
yes.
pop bin setup.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
So, little Josh, what got you into cars?
Well, I mean, uh, pretty much everybody in my family, my dad and my mother, both sides, very mechanical into cars. My dad, he had a 34 Chevy when he was in high school, and then uh, my mom growing up around my grandfather, who was always into cars. When my grandparents got married, their honeymoon was they went to the Starbird show in
Hmm.
Oklahoma City, I think, or Tulsa. I can't remember which one. Because he used to have one in Oklahoma City. I know he doesn't anymore,
Mhm.
but I can't remember which one it was. And so that was, they were always car people. And that was what my mom grew up around. She can remember going to drag races and things like that. And so when I was growing up, my grandparents lived close to us. We spent a lot of time around them. My grandfather was restoring his own cars, and
But your grandpa, if you met him once, you remembered him.
hmm
He was a trip. I love that guy. He was ornery. He was awesome, and he was a big Mopar guy. He had letter cars, right? Chrysler
yeah,
300s and stuff.
big,
Yeah.
big into letter cars. Uh, he always had a fleet of those when I was growing up. There was a few times when I was younger that he would buy one, and I mean we're talking pre-cell phone and stuff. I mean he would buy one, and my grandmother and him would fly to like Fresno, California, and pick it up and drive it all the way back to Topeka, Kansas, and which obviously made for a lot of good stories that he would tell and maybe embellish, knowing him.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But uh, the first car that he actually restored was a 58 300D, and that was the car that I grew up going to car shows in forever. And kind of once I started going, I didn't want to stop going. So
Mhm.
You got the
that,
bug.
Yeah.
yeah, that kind of led to that. And it's funny because it started out when he first got the car done. I can remember going to some fairly reserved, restored shows, basically,
Mhm.
and then found out it was a lot more fun when we were going to the first big, hot rod custom car show I remember going to was we went to the Americruise in 1993 in Springfield, Missouri, and they had been going to Des Moines Good Guys, which I think started in 91, maybe somewhere in there. And they'd been going to that one, but I had been getting left off of that trip, maybe on purpose, I don't know. But so the Americruise was the first one I really remember doing that was like a big rod and custom show and seeing cars there that were in magazines at that time. Uh, Roy
What was a
Brizio.
car you remember there? Like I remember when I went to the Maricruz a couple years after when it come through like Springfield,
Springfield,
Illinois.
Illinois.
We might have had our DeSoto there at that one.
We
We
did.
hauled it down. But I remember like Boyd might have drove Boyd Air on that one. Like there was like heavy like Boyd cars and stuff like you only seen in magazines and didn't believe they were driven, and they were driving the Americruise on them. It was
Well,
cool.
see, and that was like in '93 at that one, Roy Brizio drove that Ford Motorsports blue, white with the blue scallops 32 Roadster. Kind of had a seemed to recall it had like a zipper style windshield on it, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong, but I remember it was a little bit of mix of modern with traditional, and it had been on the cover of Hot Rod, kind of like angled moving. I was like, it was
Mhm.
just such a cool, iconic shot. And then to go and see that car um, in person, and then another person that was there that had a big car that had been in magazines at that time was Dale Vesh had a 41 Ford Woody wagon that he did. Uh,
Mhm.
that
Which
car
Besh,
did.
I've always looked up to him because I call him, and I mean this as a biggest compliment. He was to me, he was the Midwest Boyd Coddington. Like everything was a zinger. I mean everything, and we've had him on this on as a guest in the podcast, and I'm so happy that we got him on. And it's like he's just the coolest guy ever, and he built so many cool. That if people need to go back and listen to it, the him widening a set of wire wheels that he cut them apart with a bandsaw or a
Yeah.
hacksaw, a hacksaw, and to widen them. It's like what? That's Die Hard right there.
And I can't remember, he probably said on his when he was on the show, but I mean I've been to his shop many times when I was photographing, and he's got like a giant tree stump in his shop that he beats panels on. I mean, that's like,
Mm-hmm.
or he did. I assume he still does, but
I bet he still does.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah, I always thought that was so cool.
yeah.
So let's go to school. And what kind of student were you?
Surprisingly, fairly good. I mean, I think that's a lot from my father because my dad was he always wanted me to excel in school, and he always wanted me to go to college, and he kind of laid that out pretty early on, and I wouldn't say it was like a high expectation, but it was one of those like, he always felt like, oh, he could have done so much more if he'd went to college. And so he was pretty adamant that both myself and my sister went to college, and so he and my mother did a pretty good job of staying on top of me to make sure. And honestly, what really worked was they would be like, if you don't pass the spelling test this week, you're not going to the car show this weekend. So using those kind of incentives really helped me, get
You
through
know
Right.
how
school.
my parents bribed me to learn? I have trouble. My multiplication in grade school when learning you know times, not plus or
Sure.
minus, and multiplying stuff. And I was like, I just didn't want to do it. So they bribed me with a model car, and it's like I always built model cars because they were cheap and buy them, save up some money, working on the farm. Well, I wanted the Starbird Big T to
Oh
build,
yeah.
and that's the only way that I would do it. And I got it. I passed my test, learned it, and years later, when I got in Starbird's Hall of Fame and he inducted me, I told that during my acceptance speech, and he goes, "I never knew that. That's pretty cool." So yeah, you helped me pass some grades because I wanted that model so much. So
Yep.
It's amazing what a little bribe like that'll do for your motivation level. That's for sure.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
right. That's right. So were you in any sports in school?
No, I'm not gifted in any way in that department.
How big a school did you go to?
High school,
Yeah.
probably, I don't know, graduating class was probably a couple hundred,
Oh, that's
Oh.
pretty good size.
Mhm.
Yeah.
300 maybe.
So knowing what you got into later, did you take art classes?
Yes. So, like when I was in, I can always remember trying to take as many art classes as I could because, as you pointed out earlier, at one time I thought I wanted to be a car designer more than anything.
Mm-hmm.
And
I wanted to. I wanted to work for one of the big three, but I
yeah,
couldn't afford college. So
well, that's no joke because I can remember. getting the info. Ironically enough, my dad knew a guy who worked at the school in Pasadena.
Hmm.
And I cannot remember the tie or how all that, but anyway, I can remember getting the brochure and all the paperwork and everything and finding out how much it was and then realizing that was never probably going to happen.
I couldn't
And
afford to even go to Wildtech. So yeah.
yeah, I mean, and and I remember Wyotech was coming on at that time. I was like, maybe I'll build cars for a living. And I can remember listening to all the stuff about Wyotech, uh, getting the paperwork on it. We went and looked at McPherson when I was in high school. Think about going there to be in their restoration program.
I want to
And
go take a tour of that place. I've never been
oh,
there. I've been on advisory board for a lot of schools. I really would like to go get
it
a
is
tour.
phenomenal.
Yeah.
It is such a great school. They
I mean,
teach,
they do a card take like Pebble Beach almost every year.
yeah. I mean
Yeah.
and they teach everything. I mean, that their courses, every component, it's got to touch every component, whether it's metal shaping,
Mhm.
upholstery, you know, doing machine work on an engine, uh, obviously paint and body, and a lot of the other mechanical things. But uh, they teach automotive history. I mean, just
Mhm.
so much stuff. The facility's fantastic, and I always tell everybody that if they have a car show there,
Mhm.
I think it's the first weekend in May. It's
And
the first
that's
Saturday.
local to you where you live now, right?
Yeah, luckily it's only about I think 3 hours from me now,
Oh, okay.
but
I thought it was closer.
uh, I I've went the last 2 years and really love going to it because it is kind of like it's like a miniature Pebble Beach or Amelia because
Yeah. I've seen
they put it,
pictures
I
you
mean,
post. Yeah.
there's so many people that have such strong ties to that school. A lot of their graduates bring, things they've restored or things they've
Well,
built. I mean, Adam,
Troy at Rad Rides let
yeah,
Adam take the 36 and bare metal, didn't he?
yeah, he had the 36 there in bare metal and then he brought it finished last
You
year.
know, we have a BMX kid that has our car right now. Is she having
Everything.
trouble with the car?
She needed to know what kind of gas it took.
Okay. Bless her heart.
I know, it gave me a heart
Yeah.
attack. I'm like, God. Yeah. Sorry.
Anyway,
She couldn't figure out how to turn it off a minute ago. So
Oh, well,
bless her heart.
yeah.
it's weird. I hear all the time about how less and less kids are wanting to learn how to drive, which,
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, she drives good, but
Normally,
this one's just Carrie's caddy is like a 2007 and it's got a key fob. Half the stuff doesn't work. You have to undo the thing to use the manual key and
yeah, it's a
yeah,
little ghetto right
it's
now.
nuts. Yeah,
And
200 and some thousand miles. She needs a car.
I do, but I don't ever drive anywhere. So it's like I think it's dumb to buy a car when I don't drive anywhere. Like
Okay, so you didn't
anyway,
go to
so yeah.
McPherson. It's McPherson. We learned that talking to Will Posey
Yep.
because Will Posey went to McPherson.
he did, yeah.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I'd recommend anybody that, doesn't mind taking the trip should go, especially
Mhm.
to the event because when they have the event, you can see some incredibly rare, beautiful cars, just like if you were going to, like I said, Amelia or Pebble or somewhere like that, and you can see their facility and the students organize it. I mean, it's just I mean, it's a first rate place
Mhm.
all the way around, whether it's and one of the cool parts is I know one of um, the guy that teaches the metal shaping out there. When I was in college at Washburn, he was the curator of the art museum, and
Mhm.
he's one of them guys that woke up one day and he's like, you know what? I don't like this. I like doing car stuff. And he went to McPherson. He went through the program, completed it. He worked a few places and then went back to teach, which is
Mhm.
pretty cool. I mean,
Mhm.
you know, I love the story because he was already in a good job and just
Mhm.
decided this is kind of one of those like, yeah, it's never too late. If you really love cars, there's an avenue, I'm sure.
Yeah. That's why I'm not too let down that I never progressed and went to the school like to be a designer at the big three because a few people that I did know that did that don't work there anymore because they said, "Oh, it's not." I I would not. Neither one of you guys are going to disagree. Fit in that corporate world like that. I would not. And like my one friend, he goes, "You spend so much time and you design with your team this amazing whatever it is," and he goes, "Well, there's also 5 other teams drawing the same thing, and you put a year's worth of design and it just gets thrown in the trash." And he goes, "I did." It was too soul crushing, he said. But
I'm sure.
Yeah, you would
That's-
definitely not work in that environment
yeah,
very well.
yeah.
No.
Yeah, I always imagine
So
what the original renderings probably looked like of any production car compared to what they
yeah,
end
Yeah.
up. I'm sure
yeah,
it's ah,
yeah. Well, look at that. The torpedo that Rob Ida built with the center steering, that was the first sketch of what ended up being the Tucker. As wild as the Tucker 48 was, that was the first design that never got built. So that changed a whole bunch. Yeah.
oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So you went to, where'd you go for college?
Washburn University.
And where's that at?
Started it's in Topeka. I started out at Emporia State, which is also in Kansas, and ended up transferring to Washburn after a year and a half.
So
And
what did you study in college?
I got a Bachelor of Fine Arts. So
So we're going to talk about that. Do you have anything that, I'm going to want to talk about your art pieces that you made, your coffee pots? Do you have any in your office?
no, I should have, and yeah, I didn't even think
Yeah.
of that. I should have. I
So
probably
you
could have
made
put my
these
hands on at least
amazing, like,
one.
design, like, talk about how many of them did you make?
I did 5 of them. So when I took ceramics, they always had like when you got towards the end of the semester, you'd have to do a big project, and they wanted the see that would have been my junior year. It was you had to do 5 teapots basically with the theme. So
Mm-hmm.
my theme was tail fins. So all of the teapots are basically tail fins that somehow or another function. Um, but I didn't want to use glaze and regular, uh, oh man, regular ways of finishing the exterior of it. So a couple of friends of mine that are painters uh, came over and helped me get them to where we could tape them off and paint the trim and paint the body color on and stuff like that. So they showed really well. It was a fun project.
So you should send us a couple pictures of those when we do the post to promote the podcast.
Oh yeah,
We'll
absolutely.
stick one
Yeah,
of them
I can
in
do
there.
that
Yeah.
because I know I've got them somewhere. So
Yep. That'd be cool.
You
So-
can't find it as easy as I found this piece of art that you did for me. Is that what you're saying?
I know my mom's got at least one. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, that was a fun project, and as you can imagine, any project I was ever given, I just tried to make the theme car somehow, no
Mhm.
matter what it was. And
Did you hear that with some of the people that are in before they actually went to you hear stories about people that went to art center. Oh, don't draw hot rods. You can't make money building hot rods. I think Foose has talked about that. And did they ever try to steer you away from automotive and you need to get out of the automotive world? Did any of your teachers do that, or they just let you keep going?
luckily, I think it was kind of out there enough. They just kind of let it go because they were like, "Oh, that's interesting," and uh, which like when you have your senior exhibit and all that kind of stuff, all the professors give feedback on your work and everything, and most of the time when you go through those, there's always a lot of drawings and things like that. And I didn't have a lot of drawings because all of the drawing classes that you had were all either like figure drawing or something along those lines where you're not going to draw cars. That has nothing to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I can remember one of the professors marking on there really would have liked to have seen something drawn in here. And I'm like, well, all I can tell you is uh, just a figure drawing over here does not fit in with the rest of the show. I was going for continuity, uh, but for the most part, everybody seemed to be okay with it. So it was funny though because most of the students in the art program they always have some sort of deep emotional meaning behind what they do, and they're always the professors are always prying for like, so tell us more about this, And it's
And,
like
and Josh just says, "I like cars.
pretty
I just like
much it was
cars.
like a
I like
Forrest
cars."
Gump. I like cars. I don't know what to tell
Yeah.
you. And in the department chair, she was always like, I don't know. I think there's more to it than that. And I'm like, don't think so, but okay.
So, what was your first job?
Uh, First job where I actually collected a paycheck, where I went somewhere and worked, was I was a summer intern at a company that did screen printing and embroidery.
Mm.
Uh,
Mhm.
Summer of my junior year of high school, and I went in and sat at a computer and did shirt designs all day, and I did that for just that one summer. And it was because um, there was a couple that my grandparents traveled with all the time, and she worked there and asked if I wanted to be. They wanted to do a summer internship. Wanted to know if I wanted to do it, and they had a lot of big accounts. Like they did all the apparel for Budweiser, Ford Motor Company, and most of the university and colleges. So it wasn't like it wasn't a small mom and pop type deal, but it was a very nice facility, very very great opportunity. I worked next to three other artists that had a lot of experience, and they helped guide me through what I was doing, and it was really good experience because um, a lot of the stuff I was given was pretty simple tasks, like they give you it would be like a template where it looked like a shirt, and then you would have to basically take that logo, shrink it, and put it on there, and then that was like the proofs of what it's going to look like, and then they would,
Mm.
send it. Well, there towards the end of the summer, they're like, well, now you can move into. We want you to just try and run with with something, and uh, Hills makes pet products,
Mhm.
like dog food, things like that, and they had to deal with Hills, so the there was one I think there was a couple of them that one of the salespeople would always razz all the time about their work and give them a hard time. And he had said, well, here, you can do the Hills job. So I did the Hills job and kind of put my spin on it and everything. And I remember she came back and she was just laying into this guy about, do you even listen to what I told you? Because this doesn't look anything like this. And I'm like, that's mine over here. And he felt bad, but at the same time, I'm like, no, I'm glad you thought it was him because now I know I got like the honest feedback on the fact that it was
Right.
good, but
That's
it was a good experience.
awesome. So before that, because you say you struggle a little bit on the one that I actually got a paycheck at, were you helping your grandpa in the shop prior to that as you grew up or
I cut a lot of grass when I was growing up,
okay.
uh, and did that a lot for quite a while. And then my grandparents used to give me, but as my mom would kind of joke, piddly stuff that paid well to do around their place. But that's why I'm like, yeah, probably working at carousel trading was probably my first real job. So
Nice.
What was your first car that you drove? Or
first
first car
car
you
that I
had?
drove,
Or you
like
had even before your driver's license, like maybe you had a project car. What was your first car?
my first car was a 71 Camaro, and I moved it a
Your
little bit.
grandpa let you have a Camaro?
That's a story. Uh,
Let's hear it.
uh, but going back to your question, I can remember. I feel like the first time I actually drove a car was my mom and dad had a Mercury station wagon, and every once in a while, Dad would be like, "Hey, you want to drive it?" And we'd be somewhere way out in the middle of nowhere, safe, And then he always remembers, and I remember it too. There was a gravel road that was near my grandparents' house that kind of wound around a little bit, and my dad just kind of let me figure things out over there. And he's like, I think you might want to slow down. You might want to slow down. You might want to slow down. And then he's over there reaching, trying to grab the steering wheel because, gravel's a little loose, so the car
Yep.
starts. So
Mhm.
I remember that vividly. And I think that's probably safely the first time I actually drove a car. But
I learned a lot of car control on gravel roads. Yeah.
Yep.
it does really prepare you, and that was,
Mhm.
I always say that I feel like I got a good grasp for driving in the snow because my first car was a 71 Camaro. And I can remember, one night we got a lot of snow and my dad took me to a big parking lot and he was like, if you can drive this car in the snow, you should be able to drive anything in snow. And he
Mhm.
was
Mhm.
right because they didn't weigh anything in the rear.
Yeah,
It was,
Camaros were terrible in the snow.
oh yeah,
Mhm.
it was
Like a
rear
third,
wheel
my
drive.
buddy in high school, his parents bought a new third gen Camaro, or right out of high school, Schmitty,
Mm.
Jeff Smith, and it was raining one time. We took it cruising, and man, we didn't think we were going to get home. Just in wet. It was terrible.
It had no weight in the back of it. I know that because
Mhm.
it felt like that rear end just swimmed all over the place all the time. But it was good preparation. I mean, it definitely was.
So along this time, when did you start doing getting? Obviously, we talked about you were taking pictures when you were in school. What was the spark to get you interested in photography?
I remember, I took private art lessons when I was younger, and that was kind of what I always focused on. And then I started taking pictures just for fun when I was going to car shows. And there's two things I can kind of remember that one, I remember I took some pictures of tail fins and my grandparents' friends, Paul, that traveled with them a lot, he was looking through the pictures after we went to Americruise in Peoria. And I remember he was looking at the fin picture and he was like, "Hey, that's like a magazine quality picture right there." I was like, "Oh, well, thanks," you know. And so I kept taking pictures, and then one time I was looking at one of the car magazines, and I just remember making the comment like, "This looks terrible. I'm pretty sure I could have done a better job shooting that car than that." And I kind of got the, well, you should prove it if you think you can.
Hmm.
So um, I the only person I knew that had any connection to photographing cars was Daryl Arment, who I know
Hmm.
you guys know.
Yeah, he
And
shot a lot of our stuff.
Mhm.
Daryl had actually photographed one of my grandfather's cars for a magazine. And then subsequently, you know, anything that my grandfather restored, he just stayed in touch with Daryl and we would tell Daryl, hey, you might be interested in this, or his friend's
Which at
car.
that time, the magazines were so big, there was all these people around all parts of the country that were freelancers. Like he worked
Yeah.
for an HVAC company,
Mhm.
and then he was around St. Louis, and then I guess he retired and he moved back to Des Moines, where he was originally from. That's what I heard, but I lost track of him when he moved back to Des Moines, and not as many freelancers. But yeah, he would shoot
Yeah.
for all kinds of stuff. He shot our 54 the very first when it was done, the very first summer. We took it to, well, I guess it was the second year because we debuted it at Des Moines that we talked about. And the next year we kind of finished it
Mhm.
and took it to Street Machine Nationals. And Daryl was the one that shot it and got it in Super Chevy, and I think maybe Popular Hot Rodding too. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm with you. I lost track of Daryl. We used to talk pretty frequently, and then I kind of lost contact with him after I went to work at Advance because I would at least usually see him there for a while. He was always coming to the KKO event in Salina,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd always see him there, or
Yeah.
we'd go to lunch or something. But yeah, I haven't talked to him in a while. But
I remember we talk about him every once in a while because we're cat people.
Mhm.
He had the Chinese cats that were tall and skinny in their ears, like the drummer from Smashing Pumpkins has them. Like their ears stuck out. Like he would go to
Mhm.
cat shows, and we thought it was funny. We go to cat shows now, and I remember they had two or three, and we went to their house one time in St. Louis, and his wife's like, "Oh, that cat doesn't like people." It loved me. It would sit right in front of me and go and jabber to me, and they're like, "I don't know what the deal is." It's like animals usually love me. And I remember I looked at when we lost. turbo last year. I was like, I want one of them. They're like 10 grand now. It's like, we don't have one of those cats. We have dumpster cats, But yeah.
Trash pandas.
Yeah, trash
I love you
pandas.
just the same.
Yeah, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
But so yeah, so Daryl was like an influence of shooting cars.
Yeah, so I called him and I just said, hey, I'm like thinking about taking pictures of a car. Just kind of tell me what you do. And he kind of gave me a quick run through. And then at Des Moines, I picked out a car to shoot, and Daryl was there shooting. And then he was kind of like, oh, now that I know kind of what you're trying to do, he says, we kind of talked a little bit more, and he gave me some pointers and stuff. And then at that same time, uh, I had come to know Steve Anderson.
Mm-hmm.
So Steve Anderson was also like, well, we can shoot a car together, which
And he
was
was at that time he was the editor of the Good Guys magazine, right?
was, yeah.
Yeah.
So he brought his 2.25 camera, which basically it's a larger format than 35 millimeter. And because that's all I had at the time was 35 millimeter. And we picked out Kenny Davis's red Nomad. And I never saw the pictures. I don't know how they turned out. Don't know nothing about them. But it was one of the things Steve and I did together, and obviously learned from that too. So I learned a lot out of that weekend, and it's funny because I thought I was going to do so much better, and the car that I shot, I never got published. But
So if people don't know Steve Anderson, he's been a guest on our podcast.
Mm-hmm.
The car over your shoulder, he was actually working for Hot Rod, and he was one of the editors that drove Cadzilla across country. So yeah, go
Yes,
back and
he
listen
did.
to that Steve Anderson podcast. And we he got nominated and got voted into this Daryl Starbird Rod and Custom Car Hall of Fame last year and refused to come.
Really?
Says he didn't deserve it.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So some of them artist people, they're so critical of their work, and it like kind of crushed me because I nominated him and kind of pitched him and did all that on the board, and really wish he would have showed up and got inducted. So
Yeah, he's a great guy. I have
and
a
we owe
lot
so
to
much
him.
to him,
Mhm.
like industry hookups and meetings, and not
Friendship.
only friends
Just
and
the
just
friendship.
but
Yeah.
just we talked about that every times, and like I hadn't talked to him in a couple of years, and I was going through a really bad time. The week I was home in Illinois, my mom passed away. I get a phone on my cell phone call from Steve. He goes, I just had a feeling that you needed to talk to a friend today. And I'm like, holy shit. Yeah.
Mhm.
So we just had that attachment.
And he didn't know. Yeah, he
Yeah.
didn't know that what was going on.
Yeah.
So.
He doesn't do social media or nothing. He didn't know any of that. So yeah.
Yeah, he gave me my first chance. And I can remember when I first talking to him back when I thought I wanted to be a car designer. I can remember him being like, "Oh, well, here's Chip Fooz's phone number. Here's Larry Erickson's phone number. You might call them."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Yeah, I don't know about calling
Yeah.
them out of the blue." And and it just, I wish I would have, but it's kind of funny because, uh, since then, obviously, I've met both of them, and again, it's one of the things. I've met them. I wouldn't expect either one of them to know me, but I can remember thinking so highly of Chip Foose growing up
Mhm.
because,
And we all still do.
yeah, I mean, obviously, he's done a lot for the industry, and but my first knowledge of Foose was when he was working at
Mhm.
Boyd's. I have a very, very vivid memory of the first time the Americruise went to Lincoln, which I think was '95. He was there at Boyd's trailer back when Boyd used to have the huge semi.
Mhm.
And I can remember wanting to talk to him, but he was talking to Ken Finical and at Boyd's trailer, which, now you look back on that, you're like, well, that was pretty cool in itself that all those
Yeah.
people were in one spot. But he was trying to explain something and draw it for Ken. I don't know what they were talking about. And I was trying to be nosy, but not too nosy.
Mhm.
And I came back the next day and I was like, is Chip around? Because I want to talk to him. And they're like, no, he already went home. It's like, oh, okay. And So there was all these like times of trying to meet Chip and talk to him. And the funny part is like the next and between then, 95, it wasn't until like 2002 the next time I had a chance to be in the
Oh
same place
wow.
he was. And he
Yeah.
was in Detroit. And I went to go to try and talk to him, and I just picked like the wrong time. He's still the nicest guy in the world, but I know
Yeah.
I picked the wrong time to try and talk to him
Yeah.
because he was clearly busy. And so I was like, oh, well, maybe another time. And then eventually, uh, when I was working for Buckaroo, we did do one of the overhaulings, uh,
Mm.
met him there. And never got to really like elaborate and fanboy or anything like that. But
Mm-hmm.
it was probably better that way. But
Because
uh,
you might have a restraining order on you now.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, you never know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Carrie, Steve hooked up Carrie when she was doing upholstery at the beginning with Sid Shavers,
Mhm.
and she would call him, he would call her back and help her. Hey, I'm having this trouble, this issue, and through Steve, yeah,
Yep.
Sid Shavers got to be a mentor for Carrie in upholstery. That's not a bad one to be able to call up when you got a little problem. So,
Yeah, and that's what and I know you hear it all the time, and I hear it all the time, and you say it and I say it, which is this whole industry's relationships. I mean, that's
Mhm.
the fact is, I don't think you would probably say that there's a lot of people that view each other as big competition. Like you're not going to talk to them. I think
mhm.
everybody in general
I
talks to
think there
everybody.
are some people out there. I'm not. Carrie says I'll talk to anybody, and if somebody blows me off, I probably try to talk to them more. Or if I know they don't like me, I'll bug them even much more. Um, but yeah, I don't understand egos in the hot rod world. I don't really understand that. There's a difference between people are confident, but like I, working for Jerry Horton, he's a guitarist for Papa Roach, and I was like, dude, I know a couple car builders that think they're more rock stars than you are,
Mhm.
than you do. Because like he has no ego of that. He's like,
Mhm.
I'm just a dude, man. I just get to play guitar. I'm lucky. And that's what I think a lot of these people we get to build when you're out of our circle, the car people, we are weird people in our
Mhm.
industry. That what do you mean? Like you build people will pay you money to work on an old car. It's kind of a
Well,
big deal now. People that aren't in the industry, even on the fringe, they can't grasp this whole automotive world. They can't. What do you mean somebody's going to spend millions of dollars to go down a drag strip or drive in a circle on dirt? I mean, if you're not into it, you can't comprehend it. I mean,
no, it's
yeah,
it's really hard for people to understand. I
yeah,
mean,
Mhm.
even when you're talking to the average person, you're explaining to them that somebody spent $1.5 million on
yeah.
pick any kind of car that's
Yeah.
vintage.
Mhm.
And
Like say
Chris
what?
Coddington talks about that on his podcast, talking about his dad, and he goes, Boyd was one of them that kind of made it legit because he got to be on, the Smithsonian magazine and
100%.
all
Mhm.
that stuff. And before that, you'd go to get a loan at a bank, and it's like, what do you mean you build hot rods? He goes, they associated hot rods with like the Harley groups, and still, it's not. Yeah, when we moved to Tennessee and the bankers down here, if they don't understand you, it's still not widely prevalent. I don't think, even though it's
Mhm.
on more TV and people know it, be, just because of the exposure, but it's still not widely accepted in the business worlds. I don't think.
Yeah, and we're definitely to a point in time now where it's like, put some respect on the term because
Mhm.
I think for a long time it had that bad moniker of, I mean, hot rod. What's hot rod?
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
and to me, it's a totally legitimate,
Mm-hmm.
huge machine. I mean, that's all there
Yep.
is to it.
Mhm.
And
Yep.
and much to what you were saying, I mean, he's completely right because Boyd totally legitimized all that.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Boyd Boyd made it reasonable that you would, I mean, it doesn't sound like much nowadays, but back then, spend 300 to $500,000 building a hot rod
Yeah.
just seemed so out of this world, and yet he
And
made
how
it
big
happen.
his company got. It got big.
Oh
They were
yeah,
the first hot rod mark company, I think, to go on the stock market. We had Brad
yeah.
Fanshaw on there. It was good or bad. It was his idea to go on the public on the stock market. It didn't work well at that time. But is your guys' company on the stock market?
No,
No, okay, I didn't know that, but Comp Cams is, and Holly is, and
Yeah.
the groups that, yeah, it's a thing now. I mean,
Oh
back then
yeah.
in the '90s, it was new. What do you
In the
mean? Yeah,
1900s.
yeah. As our BMX girl says, the 1900s, and yeah,
It was a lot of fun in the 1900s.
she's the one
It
that
was.
had to call Carrie and ask what type of fuel to put in the car. That's the one that makes fun of us from being from the 1900s. So yeah.
Yep. Yep.
So okay, you get out of college, and what was your first full job?
Working for Buckaroo Communications
Right out of college, that was
right
it.
out of college.
Okay, I didn't know. Yeah,
I'd been freelancing for them. Actually, I wasn't necessarily freelancing. I was on a retainer with them. That
yeah,
Scott Clean, another great individual who
yeah.
helped me immensely get to
Which we
where.
almost had him last week, but he was getting ready to go to Detroit Autorama. So we got Scott coming up really
Yep.
soon. So
Yeah, Scott's been a great mentor through the years. He definitely helped me get my photography to the next level, and uh, he I guess I am fortunate that he saw something in me that made him spend his time. And
Mhm.
same with Steve. Steve was the same
But
way.
it's good people seen the spark that you had, that they took their time. We have a friend that he doing Formula Drift, and he's Eliza, a gas pedal kid
Mm-hmm.
online. So he's 17 now.
Mm-hmm.
And for 4 years, he's been shooting for Formula Drift, like as a freelancer and going
Wow.
and shooting. And that big photographer in that world, Larry Chen, has took
Yeah,
him underneath his wing, gave him hand-me-down cameras, and he
that's
sees the
awesome.
spark and the love in that kid, and he's 17 years old and been traveling and yeah, he's killing it. So
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like I said, I mean Scott was the first time I met him. I told him what I wanted to do, and he agreed that if I'd send him. I mean, this is back in slides. It wasn't like I sent you digital files. I mean, I
mm-hmm.
had to send him a sheet of slides, and he looked at them of cars I'd shot, stuff that had never ran. And then he was like, you should try this, you should try that. And
Mm-hmm.
so then, run into him again a few years later, show him some of the stuff. And he's like, no, this is, you're getting a lot closer. And he ended up spending a day with me after an event one time. Just,
Which seriously, Scott Clean of giving pointers on photography is like getting design ideas and mentorship from Chip.
Mm-hmm.
I would
yeah,
say that and hold that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
And, that was, he had come to the Kansas City Good Guys event when they had one there the first year they had it. And we both were shooting cars in the same area. And obviously, he was giving me pointers the whole time, and I was watching him. And then that, he was like, I'm sticking around on Monday. He goes, I'll come over in the afternoon, and then you and I can, explore and go through a lot. And then sure enough, he drove over to Topeka where I lived, spent the afternoon, early evening with me. We looked at, I mean, we were in just a basic daily car, but he could teach me all the lighting principles. He'd like, see what it looks like when you're looking at it like this and the sun's in this area. Now look at it if you're looking at it from this area. And then showing you how to make a background out of nothing. And uh, it was major. I mean, it was big for
Mm-hmm.
me. And at
So
that,
when you were a freelancer, when you were at Buckaroo, was Northern Southern Otter magazine, was that before Buckaroo or after Buckaroo?
that was before I went full time with Buckaroo.
Okay. So that
So
was one that I remember. They did a good job, Budget
Mm-hmm.
Magazine, and we did a kickoff party for them once. They had a show in Davenport, Iowa, and we used to have ads in there. And I remember you were like, dude, some of them photographers, they got like a dumpster in the background. I remember you said that.
yeah,
It's like some of them, they just looked at the car, didn't really look at the background,
they
and it
shot
might
it
be
right
like,
where it was at the show.
yeah, a
Mm-hmm.
tree or a post growing out of the roof or something like that, or a telephone pole. And I remember you saying that as a young, but I didn't remember. Yeah. So what was your first car that you got in print that you shot?
Uh, it would have been in Southern Rotter. It was a 39 Ford two-door sedan standard uh, that a guy in Topeka owned. And that was the first thing that was actually in print. It's kind of weird because I had a couple things all hit at once because I had that, and then I had shot a feature for Rod and Custom when Rick Amato was there,
Mm-hmm.
and it came out about that time. And then I had shot a 32 sedan that I sent to Street Rodder, and they ran it in a little 4-pack thing at the back when they used to do that. Um, but the 39 Ford was the one that I think came out first, if I remember correctly. And it's funny because I thought, God, I have made it, because they put it on the cover, and it was had a nice spread and everything. And it's funny now because I look at the picture, I'm like, oh my God, those are terrible.
Did you shoot our Rivy for
I
Northern
did.
Rodder?
It was on the cover, wasn't it?
Yeah, I got it. It's on the hall in the hallway. I framed a bunch of stuff, and yeah.
But yeah, and that was a good opportunity. Which is actually what led to the retainer with Buckaroo, because I was getting more time with Scott. Uh,
And at this time at Buckaroo, was Steve there yet at Buckaroo?
Yes, and Steve was one of the first in the first batch of people that went to Buckaroo when John founded it. So it was Steve, Scott, Jerry Berger, Gary McWhorter, trying to think of other Bob Carpenter.
Yeah,
Trying to
great
think of
staff.
everybody that was
Great.
well,
All these guys before
Warren
when worked
was
at Hot Rod or
which
everything.
Warren's he's pretty high up on SEMA right now, so
Yeah.
he's on SEMA staff there. But they put together a really good crew of big names, and it was like the company you wanted to have I mean, they were putting out the magazines you wanted to have stuff in, because
Oh yeah, posters. You got the 54 was in a poster.
Yeah.
The 51 Vicky was pull out poster and big.
it was
tech.
so
Yeah.
it was more photocentric than the other ones that were out there, with the
Yeah.
exception of like Rodder's Journal. But
So were you working for Buckaroo when they were still based in California? They ended up moving to Tennessee before they
Correct.
ended. Were you there when they were in California?
yeah, as a matter of fact, I went to the offices in California twice, I think.
Yeah, we were there once. We got a tour once, Steve. We went out to dinner with Steve. We were passing through. Is that when we went to Blackie's?
Had to have been.
Probably when we went to Blackie's, pulling our 48-foot trailer through there.
That was a nice facility out there, and they decided to move to Tennessee, and I stayed remote the whole time because my thing was I was traveling all the time, so what did it really matter? You were going to get everything.
So with Tennessee, I think either that's part of it or where they're at. So Auto Builder online is David Leach. His company. That's who Clean works for now and runs the Auto Builder pages that you see.
Correct.
And I was thinking something they were in part of the old Buckaroo buildings.
I believe you're correct.
Yeah.
David went with John and Jim to Tennessee, and I believe I think if I understand everything correctly, David bought all of the old files after Buckaroo went out of business. So that's what Scott's doing right now, is he's going through all the slide film,
That's how he has all that. I just seen that. I was like, oh, maybe he shot that car, because he'll post like, oh, this was 2001 at the Roadster Show or 2001 at Detroit, and yeah.
It's pretty fun because I'll get a text message every once in a while, and he will send me a picture of he's going through all those old files. He'll find like a contact sheet that has all the little pictures on it of the car, and then it'll have like a post-it note that I put on there and wrote something, and he'll like take a snapshot of it, and like the last one he said, "Oh, I feel your pain on that note," because it'd be some comment about trying to make sure that the color's correct or something, and
Yeah, he
But
sent us that picture I posted
Mm-hmm.
a couple weeks ago. It was 2001, the Rivy, an alternator go bad in Columbus, and he had it posed that Carrie was. I'm standing there watching, and Carrie's on the ground with the alternator, like
I
she
was
was
doing the work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she still thinks she was.
How normal things happen around here. Tim stands around and watches and do all the work.
So, how many years were you at Buckaroo?
uh, full time January of '05 to January of 2009.
Hmm.
So
So I have
4 years,
we have one that's sitting over here.
which is weird because it felt like it was so much longer than that.
Did you move that 54 picture, Carrie?
Yeah.
Where did you put it?
I don't know. It's over by the couch? Question mark.
Oh, so I found another one today. So Josh, when he would shoot stuff, he would give you a couple.
Oh, that's dirty.
Oh yeah.
And then there's another one that's even more kind of artsy at the shop that's framed like this. That's, I don't know, just like an angle different thing. So a story about this photo shoot is epic. He always forgets this story. He came to our shop in Illinois to shoot that. We drove it. Illinois, there's mile. It's a country square.
I didn't forget it. Just out of respect, I never tell the story.
Yeah. But we drove over across, so down mile, because that road at that time, and I still think, had no power lines on it. That's how far out in the country we were. There was no power lines in that half-mile stretch. And my niece actually rents a cattle pasture right across the road from where we shot that still. And we were driving it back after the photo shoot. And this thing is fresh. This was the 54 that we talked about that you seen in the early 90s.
Right.
We showed it, got in a bunch of magazines. We ended up letting it sit in storage, got it back out, redid the car. 2003, it went to SEMA. So this was probably that fall, maybe. I don't think you came before the SEMA show.
No, because this would have been going back around the calendar, I think, because
the next spring.
Because I remember shooting it, and then like it felt like it was 2 weeks or 3 weeks later we were at Indy.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds right.
Yeah. So spring, May. Because Indy was always first, second weekend of June, and I missed that show. I wish they'd go back to Indy again.
I know.
So we're driving it, and were you in the car with me?
I was in a car. I was driving.
You were,
and I remember I got close back to where your shop was, and I was like, "Where did you go?" And then
well, about that time, I realized I was like, "They tightened the lug nuts on this," and all of a sudden, the front wheel came off. So no, I did not tighten the lug nuts on there, and it had center cap on it, right, on those wheels. Yeah, covered lug nuts. So they just backed off, and then the wheel came off. And that thing had a twin rail chassis underneath of it that was built to be the lowest, and it fell right on there. I wasn't going fast enough on these country roads. The wheel just stayed in there. It didn't try to come out. It didn't hurt nothing. It scratched the frame, and we put the wheel on. So we walked, got the truck, and floor jack, put the wheel on, put the lug nuts. So yeah. I'm sure you're not. That's not maybe that's the first time a wheel came off after a photo shoot, but you probably got some crazy stories of shooting cars, and we're always like, "Don't show that. Oh, the door jams aren't done yet," or whatever. So, yeah, I'm sure as a photographer, you've got some craziness.
I've helped push a lot of cars to get through photo shoots. Yeah. It's weird because I haven't been a full-time photographer in a number of years, and I still have dreams at night where I'm trying to get done before the sun sets. Or usually I'm trying to get to the location and I can see that the sun's going down, and then I usually wake up. So, but I still.
And now that's when John Jackson shows up to shoot.
Right.
Yeah. It's weird how different photographers. I remember we talked about Daryl Armette. Luckily we got shot 4 different photo shoots that weekend at the Street Machine Nationals. and it was sunny all weekend, but then a storm was coming in and it was getting ready to rain. And I'm like, dude, I'm getting nervous. I was like, what are we doing out here? He goes, trust me. And the sun went down and it wasn't raining yet. And that was still one of my favorite features that he shot and got in a couple magazines because the lighting was right, the reflections. It was just, I don't know. It just, wow. It was just crazy. He just said, trust me, trust me. I was like, okay.
Well,
I had
that
to
we're
say
saying,
that
like
a few
we were
times.
wasting our time.
Yeah. That was the photo shoot of the back of the Street Machine National. Did you ever go there? In the back, in the corner by the wood fence and stuff, they would take a bunch of cars
Man,
back there.
I never made it to that show, but I always describe it as the party you missed going to, and then everybody would come home and tell you all these crazy stories about it, and you're like, no way that happened. And
I
then you
posted a video on my story the other day of I said on Instagram, when people say car shows ain't like they used to be, this is what goes into my head. It was some of that was at the Coin Street Machine Nationals, but sorry, you are not Carrie's favorite photographer. Back in that day, that's when Anders Odelholm came from Sweden. You remember Anders?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you would enjoy talking to him way more and listening to him.
And he would shoot him. He was from Sweden. He'd come over and get it in Norway, Germany, Finland, Sweden, all this, the magazines. Well, they have a little different rules where he's from, and we're out in the middle out there, and he's talking to us, and he just kind of walks over kind of towards the fence and not really turned away and just pulls it out and takes a leak. And Carrie's jaw hit the ground like, was that like a baby's arm? She said. She still remembers Anders. So
I do.
Yeah, he'd come and
do.
even when DeCoin stopped being, he came in, and I don't know. We met him in Davenport, Iowa, and shot our wagon at a park. He was still coming, but yeah, Anders got us a lot of press, and he was Carrie's favorite photographer, Anders Odelholm. He was a good looking man. I can say that comfortably.
He was.
But he was gifted, wasn't he?
He was very gifted. They don't grow him like that in the States.
Yeah. Anyway, now I got sidetracked.
Oh Lord. Yes.
But yeah, you're working at Buckaroo, and then what happened at the end of Buckaroo? Things happened. Were you there till the end of Buckaroo?
Fairly close. I mean,
and what year did you leave Buckaroo?
I didn't leave on my terms. I was told I was done. So
did the industry change? Because I mean, they were doing good. They had Truck Builder, Street Rod Builder, Super Rod, and then they had a boat magazine too, didn't they?
Yeah, I the best I can say is I just think there was probably a lot of poor financial decisions that were made.
Yeah.
I mean,
but it was also 2008 was kind of a crash, right? The housing thing. So that probably didn't help.
I think, and don't get me wrong, I never saw the books. I don't know what it was like, but it just felt like and this is going to be so backwards from what you normally hear, but I really think when they left California, that kind of derailed. And I don't mean that as a negative to any of the people that worked in Tennessee on it, because, he ended up, Tommy Lee Bird's a great addition that came from them relocating to Dayton, Tennessee.
Was Tommy a full-time Buckaroo guy?
Yeah, he became a full-time Buckaroo guy.
Yeah, he's great. He does a freelance stuff for a lot. I see him at a lot of events, and Tommy's great. Yeah,
he is. And there was a few people that moved, but I think a lot of it is David went too, who was his head of sales, but a lot of his core. This is all speculation. I'm not saying this is what it was, but
we say allegedly.
Allegedly. I think it was that a lot of his core salespeople did not want to move to Tennessee, and they stayed. And those are the guys that, had all the relationships with all the advertisers.
Because how many years did they last after they moved to Tennessee? 2? 3?
Yeah, probably 3. I think that's probably safe to say. And, take that.
Which if people don't know, you just kept saying John. It's John Diana.
Right.
Which he was a notorious of stories that I've heard. He was very cantankerous to deal with and very strong-headed. He worked for Hot Rod, got fired from Hot Rod. He was a big magazine industry guy. Come from the time of the magazines, and some of these people talk about it. Um, like Randy Lorenzen, I've heard on Chris Coddington's podcast, which we're going to have Randy on pretty soon, Hall of Famer. That he says those guys back then, allegedly, the hot rod, big money '80s style of stuff where Diana came from, it was almost like that TV show Mad Men. He
Yeah.
goes, some of these office people in suits that helped run this huge company. I mean, magazines were huge when the Peterson days. He goes, they had secretaries that couldn't type. He says it was totally like the Mad Men TV show. It was like a whole different 70s, 80s era. It's a different world than what we live in now. Good or bad,
Yeah.
it's a different world. But
Yeah. I mean,
at the spending of all that stuff, and the guys from In the Garage Media have talked about that to me, that they come from that when they killed all those 19 magazines, and there was a bunch of guys in suits that were getting paid that really weren't doing the work, allegedly. And they figured out that they can do the magazines on a shoestring budget without paying the suits, and they're doing a very good job, and their numbers are good. So, I mean, obviously we're huge print people, so, and still a huge print person.
huge.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. So what happened when you were done at Buckaroo? Where did you end up?
I was unemployed for probably a year, and I tried doing freelance. My dad was doing industrial maintenance for this big company, and he was able to get me on to help him out part-time. So that helped carry me through, and obviously a lot of support from everybody in our family, because it was tough there for a while. And
Did you have a? When did you have? How many kids do you have? I should know this.
two,
Two.
When did you have your first one?
2010. So,
Okay. And
uh,
that, so you were done at Buckaroo at that time,
yes,
and he had a lot of health issues.
correct.
A lot, yeah, I remember that. I didn't
So
remember that you were done at Buckaroo at that time, I guess.
yeah, we had, which I guess, in hindsight kind of goes against what you would think. I mean, I was unemployed and we decided we were going to have kids. So, uh,
Well, you got the time.
Right?
Yeah.
I know, right? I didn't have anything else going on. So, and when I lost the job at Buckaroo, I remember thinking, I'll go work for Street Rodder. You know, Brian's always been nice to me and acted like, you looking for a job? So, and at that time, I was like, yeah, I can't hire anybody that's like a full-time remote person. I can, throw you all the work you want if you want to go shoot stuff. So I did that for a while, but I mean, it didn't, there's no rocket science to figure out that freelance work is incredibly sporadic on when you get paid. And which makes it tough because you could shoot a lot of stuff and have a lot of stuff out there in the ether waiting to be ran. But, at that time, you didn't get a check until you seen it in print. So you're just
Because
like,
allegedly, you might have told me a story, allegedly, emphasize the allegedly, when you were doing freelance for the Northern Southern Rodder guys, you had a lot of stuff that you never got paid for from them, right? Was that them or was that Buckaroo?
well,
Somebody, allegedly.
yeah, I mean, there's some allegedlys on like Northern, no, because I ended up closing out my deal with Northern and Southern Rodder. I do remember that.
Oh, okay.
Now I will say that when everything went south with Buckaroo, yeah, there was a lot of expenses that never got paid. There was a lot of like vacation time that I didn't get paid for, things like that, which is neither here nor there. But at the time, it would have really it would have really helped. But
There's no vacations in this industry. What are you talking about?
Right?
No vacations.
Yeah, I know.
Your vacation is when you go to Des Moines, Iowa to the car show.
I know, right? That's what everybody thinks.
Yeah.
But it would be funny because, I'd be somewhere and so, oh man, Buckaroo, God, love those magazines, I spent $40 and bought a subscription and I never got an issue after that. And I always go, well, if it makes you feel any better, I lost my job. So, and then that's usually like, okay, maybe that $40 wasn't so much. But, yeah, so when I was at Buckaroo, I had shot Steve Tracy's 32 Roadster, and that he went and competed at, well, at that time, Riddler and AMBR. And I got to know him and his wife, Sherry. And I would talk to Steve frequently. He would call me frequently. And I remember one time he was like, "Have you found a job yet?" And I'm like, "No." He's like, "You should come work for me." And I just laughed. And he's like, "No, I'm serious." And, you know, long story short, he ended up enticing me to move down there. And I never thought I'd move away from Kansas. And
Hmm.
We didn't either, just so you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a it was a big shock to us. We're like, really? Like he's a family man. What's he doing?
yeah. And it was, I mean, it was, you know, it was a great opportunity. And at the same time, I felt like I got to figure out I got to have a full-time gig of some sort. And that was the most appealing thing that anybody had even shown me remotely at that time.
Hmm.
And so we did it. And, I luckily my wife's very supportive because I really didn't give her a choice in hindsight. I think I kind of came home and was like, this is what we're doing. And so she's been so nice throughout the years, just that, you feel like I don't know what I'm trying to say, but it's a lot of what I'm able to do is because she's been behind
The
me the whole
support.
way.
The
Mhm.
trust that some of our wives give us, guys, is I can't explain it either.
Yeah.
It's like when we came down to Tennessee. Hey, we're gonna move to Tennessee.
Well, I wanted to do that.
Yeah, you've always wanted to move to
I was the
Tennessee.
push for Tennessee. So
Well,
So
and
you
and,
you
and, and
came to
honestly, my wife and I had visited Tennessee, and she thought it was pretty, and was like, "Yeah, I could see living in Tennessee." But
yeah.
you know, we lived there for 10 years, almost 10 years, pretty close to 10
yeah.
years, and
You were there before the flood, right?
so I had agreed to go to work there right before the flood, and then
Mm-hmm.
the flood happened a couple weeks before my son was born,
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
and so it's kind of like, oh my God, what's going to happen, and my father, who had actually, I know I've told this story before other places, but my father, who had never met Steve Tracy or knew anything about him when the flood happened, and I think, just how supportive my folks are, my dad was like, I could probably help him. He's like,
Yeah, I
I've
I
done
stopped by one
industrial
time
maintenance
a few
forever.
weeks after cleanup, and yeah, it's like, oh, you're Josh's dad. Yeah,
Yeah. So he went down and spent a few days down there helping out right after the flood during the cleanup and everything.
which if
And
you've never met Josh's dad, there's no denying that who Josh's dad is. Josh is not adopted.
no, 100%. I mean, when I was working, uh, helping my dad out, he would send me to run errands, uh, go grab parts or supplies or whatever for whatever maintenance project he was working on. And he'd be like, just go in and ask for so and so. And I'd go in and be like, yeah, I'm here for it. He's like, you're Mishler's son, aren't you? I can tell. Yeah, that's me.
I get that
But
same thing with my dad. Yeah.
So I
so
do apologize here. Just a minute ago, I walked into the other room because our cats are fighting. I am mic'd up. So as I was
Cussing at the cats?
no, I did not cuss. I whispered to them. So
Hmm.
yeah, I'm an idiot because I got in there. I'm like, oh, I have a mic
Just
on.
don't sneak away
could
to
have
the
been a
restroom.
worse
I know.
hot mic moment, you never know.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, our cats are like, yeah. Lily is here on spring break, so she's working on LS Fest stuff for me. So FM3 is thrown up all over my house.
It is
Oh, I bet.
ridiculous.
Yeah. So the cats are having a great time in there. So we apologize for the craziness that you might hear in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're going crazy right now. So, but anyway, okay. So
So with the boy being born, did that slow you with his health issues moving to Nashville?
Yeah, I think at first was in a lot of uncharted territories I'd never been in. And
He had a lot of heart issues, correct?
correct, yeah. And he had an open heart surgery when he was 10 days old. That was the first one. And then he had a second one when he was 5 months old. Uh, so we got through the first two surgeries, and then it was like, well, okay, now we're gonna actively put our foot forward and trying to get the house sold.
Mm-hmm.
So we got it sold. That would have no. So this was November, December. We start trying again to sell the house. Um, it take excuse me. It takes to June before we finally get it sold. And again, there was a lot of like going through that where it was like, am I making the right decision still? Because leaving a whole support system
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
uh, after going through something like that, and then wondering if any of that signs that I should be staying.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that I couldn't sell the house, is that a sign? But
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, being incredibly stubborn and bullheaded, it's just more like oh, I'm going to prove to you that I can make this happen
Mm-hmm.
Became a
kind of deal.
challenge.
And
Yeah.
that's more or less what it turned into for me. And you know, you learn something from every experience you go through,
Mm-hmm.
whether you realize it at the time or not. And the 10 years I spent down there, it'd be easy to go, oh, I wish I just would have stayed back here and stayed near the family and everything. Because, I mean, not getting into too much detail, but there's a lot of things that change back home in that 10 years, whether it's family members passing away or things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And, you can look at all that in hindsight, but all the things I gained out of it in terms of learning more about myself and what I could do in
Mm-hmm.
another facet of the industry besides take pictures and
And
the
on a
things that
personal
it
thing, when you move away from your local where you grew up, it changes a lot of stuff when you go home. In our case, like
Mm-hmm.
who you still talk to. Like
very true.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of have, other than my family, my dad, my brother-in-law, my sister, your family that still lives back there. I pretty much talk to one person that I grew up with.
Mm-hmm.
My 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 best, I'll say my best friend Greg.
Mm-hmm.
I've been friends with since we met in kindergarten or preschool, and you don't really talk to any
Mm-hmm.
past people. It's weird when you move away. Josh Shaw talked about that when he was on our podcast. When you move away, you kind of realize if you were a convenient friend or a real friend. And that is something to be said about growing up too, different paths and different careers and all that stuff. It is a big change when you move away from home.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
Absolutely. And and not just the things that you gain in terms of career wise. I mean, you gained a lot as a married couple or as a family unit and
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
growing together and relying only on one another because you didn't
Mm-hmm.
have anybody else to rely on down there.
Yep. Yep.
And
So I will say when we moved down here, you know who the first people that reached out to us and welcomed them in and invited us to like a 4th of July party at their
Stephen Sherry.
house? Steve and
Mm-hmm.
Sherry Tracy, advanced plating. They took us. That's why I jokingly call them mom and dad. I mean, they're not that far in age, but they really
Mm-hmm.
they
Welcome
were a
us in.
support people for us down here. And I'll always be thankful of that to them. And that's why I call their daughters sisters. And so does Dave Shutton. And yeah, they invited us to their work party where they have all their people out to, barbecue at the pool house and all that stuff. And a couple of the guys knew me because I was on TV and why we moved down here. Like, what are you doing here? I was like, I have no friends down here. And Steve, they invited us to the cookout, so we're
Yep.
here with all the employees. And yeah, so that was pretty awesome that they did that. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, this
Yeah,
this industry has some pretty special people in it that you get to know. It really does.
it does. That's one of the things that came out of that was I felt like I already had a really great network within the industry from photographing
Mm-hmm.
for, if you include all the freelance before Buckaroo and all
So
that.
I talked to somebody today. I'm not going to say their name, but I'll tell you after the fact. He wants us to ask a question on this podcast. I'm doing this out of our order. Like, who in the industry do you think is an unsung hero that maybe you think of? We've talked about Steve Anderson. This is usually should have question, but it just popped into my head and I didn't want to forget it. Of that somebody that maybe doesn't get enough credit in the industry. And he said you. This guy did
Really?
because I said who I was interviewing. He goes, he's one of them unsung heroes. he goes, it's not that people don't know him and how cool stuff he does, but he goes, he's not a builder, so he doesn't get that notoriety, but he's been around, and he goes, that guy has put, like, he's saying you of what we were just talking about, Steve Anderson, on the, you have connected so many industry people through all the things that you have done and still continue to do. And he says Josh Mishler is one of my top 3 unsung heroes of the industry.
Well, that means a lot to hear. I
And
mean,
this is a pretty cool industry guy. I'll tell you, I'm not throwing him under the bus. Yeah.
that's
So,
pretty cool. That's
yeah,
pretty
but
cool.
I was like,
I mean,
I just thought about that as what he said to me today. So, yeah.
that's,
So you're appreciated out there, is what
I
I want you to
appreciate
know.
that. I appreciate them for, and that's what I was getting to is, I thought I already had a good network within from, taking pictures and then go to work at the plating shop, and that network grows even more between
Yeah.
builders and manufacturers and that's the good thing about that is you end up creating your own mental Rolodex of people that like
Yeah.
I hear somebody having a problem with this. It's like I should put this guy together with this. And
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
and uh
So
you
tell
know,
people what did you do when you were at advanced plating? You weren't out there dipping chrome in. So tell everybody what you did when you were there.
I was a special projects manager. Um the main I mean, I also did social media advertising and all that good stuff too, photographing guitars, parts. But my role was, if any
Whatever
build,
needed done.
Yeah, whatever needed done. Yeah.
yeah, whatever
I've been a
needed done.
project manager for a long time.
Well, and that was what Steve said when he hired me was he's like, look, he goes, the guitar business is a two-headed monster that requires so much of my time. I just can't watch over car stuff. I can't watch over the
Yeah, a
hot
lot of
rod
people don't
stuff.
know how much guitar music stuff that
Yeah.
advanced
Oh yeah,
plating does.
it's immense.
But yeah.
And his was basically like, you just need to make sure that they get the stuff when they need it and that it's the quality it needs to be.
But you being a
And
car fan of people and car builders, you got the inside track of stuff. And I'd be, I'd call you or I'd stop by, take Chrome. It's like, what are you working on? He says, oh man, there's some cool stuff going to Detroit or Pomona or whatever. He said, but I can't tell you about it. And it's like, so you got the inside track of what everybody was built. Not everybody, but a lot of the heavy hitters use advanced
yeah,
plating. So you got to know a lot of secrets
yeah,
before.
I mean, those were my customers. Anybody that was trying to make SEMA, trying to compete for the Riddler, trying to compete for AMBR, trying to compete for Sloniker. Those were the guys I took care of and tried to make sure that they hit their deadlines and that it was at the level it needed to be. And, a lot of that is knowing how, because I mean, it'd be nice to sit here and go, yeah, everything goes as planned in the plating business, but it doesn't. You're never gonna, I mean, and that was, you'd always set a date that you wanted to try and ship it by, and then if it wasn't gonna hit it, then I had to not be afraid to get on the phone and prepare the guy and be like, hey, it ain't gonna ship today. I can either ship it to you tomorrow and it hopefully be better than what it is, or you can get it now and be unhappy with it. I mean, it's kind of up to you. And it was a lot of, going through A, B, and C scenarios just to make sure that things got done. But again, that's a lot of that was, like you said, I wasn't the one prepping the parts and plating them. A lot of that was relying on a good team, and luckily there was a good team down there that you
So
could count on.
allegedly, did you have like, oh, this is a Riddler part? Would you call Bubba in the back? It's like, this is the guy that has to prep this part. Because I'm sure there's some guys that are better with stainless, they're
Some
better
of
with
that,
bumpers, they're
yeah,
better with brass or whatever. I'm sure there's some of them guys probably have their stuff. And there's some, I will argue, the guys there are artists that are
yeah,
plating that stuff. Because
absolutely.
I've taken some screwed up stuff and it's come back awesome before. So yeah.
Yeah, and that's what would lead to, uh, experimenting with split finishes and things like that. Just trying to find the limits of things that we could do, and you're right. I mean, there would be things I'm like, I really think so and so should do this, and Steve would typically agree, or sometimes he'd be like, I think so, they would be better at that. I'm like, okay, that's fine. And it was all about just hitting quality. As long as they hit the quality, that's what matters. And it's like anything. You go back to relationships. It was out there trying to, build a good rapport with all the platers, the guys racking it, the guys that were inspecting it, and
Mm.
the guys running it on the line so that they knew what you were looking for, what you were
Mhm.
expecting. And, you know, luckily they always made me look good at the shows. Everybody seemed to be happy for the most part. So
Yeah,
I
so
have
you did
all
a
the
lot of
good.
shows. You would be one of the guys that would go and work the booths at the stuff. I know you did the car stuff. Did you ever do any of the music industry parts? Did you ever go to any of them events?
I went to two of the guitar events on one time in Anaheim, one time in Nashville, just
Mm-hmm.
as, very basic spectator. But
Mm.
couldn't tell you. I mean, I can identify a lot of the parts that they make for an electric guitar, but and tell you what they are. But for the most part, I, I I'm pretty useless on it. On those
Yeah. And I always joked that you would always go to like Hershey and Carlisle, which I've never been, and I wanted to. And I was like, oh, one of these years I'm going to hop in the van and go with you, and I never did that, and I lost my
Yeah,
chance to go with you.
Hershey's phenomenal. I mean, Hershey is off the charts. That's still to this day one of my favorite events.
Because Hershey is more like collectibles and older cars, right? And then Carlisle is more like new, not
Muscle car.
newer, but
Yeah,
muscle car stuff. I'd like to go to both of them. And aren't they like a couple weeks apart or something like that?
they're only a few days apart actually,
Oh, okay.
and they're even closer together now because uh, Hershey used to start like officially first day was Wednesday,
Mm-hmm.
if I remember correctly. It was Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then they had the show on Saturday. Well, they shifted everything, so now I think it starts on Tuesday, and then the show's on Friday. So that means really Monday is the only day in between now, because Carlisle wraps up on the Sunday before, and so a
Oh,
lot of
okay.
people just hang around and go to both.
Yeah.
Uh,
I still want to do that sometime, but I
yeah,
want to go. I always waited because I always wanted to have money when I went, and I never have any money, so that's why I don't
yeah, because you'll blow through it there in a heartbeat.
Yeah. So you get done at advanced and you decide to move back home ish.
Yeah. Like I said, we've been there 10 years. Kids were getting older. Well, I say getting older. My son would have been, uh, let's see, we moved to 22. So he was about to turn 12. And we had a daughter in 2018. So she was 4 at the time. And I think a lot of times I reflect on the fact that how much time I got spent with my grandparents growing up. And I hated that I was depriving my children of that. And that was one of the things that led to it, and just being homesick, and uh, so made the tough decision that was gonna come back, and had feelers out for a while and hadn't had a lot of luck. And I had seen Bobby Schumacher at an event, and I knew he was in the Kansas City area, and I was like, hey, if you know anybody, trying to get back.
Mm-hmm.
And then one day out of the blue, he called me and he's like, I was like, I don't know if I can afford you, but I want to talk to you. And we talked, and then I was kind of on the fence, not not because I didn't think I would enjoy it, but just I I I hate the idea of ruining a friendship somehow, and I didn't want that to happen because
Mm-hmm.
I
Because how
know
long
that.
have you known them? They've been around. Vintage Fabrication, right, is the name of the
Yep,
shop. They've been around building stuff. If you don't know the name, you know their cars that they've done. They're
yep,
SEMA cars, and they've been, Street Machine Nationals back in the day. They had cars. I don't remember how long I've known them people, and they've always just been the
yep.
nicest people to me.
They've been around. They've been in business since early '90s, and built a lot of cars. I photographed a lot of their cars when I worked for Buckaroo, which is obviously how we got to know each other a lot more. And uh, yeah, so it's just, you know, hesitation in that point because I didn't doubt that Bobby wanted somebody to do what he was asking, to be like a shop manager. But,
Mm-hmm.
I also know that they were so generous that it was probably like, oh, do him a favor since he's trying to get back type thing. Was it, it's kind of what I'm creating in my head. Not saying any
Mm-hmm.
of that's true, but so that was kind of where my, thinking was. And I had interviewed a couple other places and just they weren't right. And
Mm-hmm.
my wife was like, why won't you just call him? Obviously you two like each other. There's no reason. I was like, you're right. And he was like, "Are we gonna do this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, let's do it." And we, so agreed, and I'm very thankful for that because it was my pathway back home, and I know it was a lot. I enjoyed it because now it's kind of the all the different facets of the hot rod world that I got to see from when I started, and other than the time that I was unemployed and helping my dad. My entire career has been in the hot rod industry. I've never worked in anything
Mm-hmm.
else. And so now I've went from being in publishing to chrome plating the parts to actually
Mm-hmm.
being in the shop building. And
Mm-hmm.
I say building, managing the shop. I'm not a builder. And so that was a whole new experience. I got to learn how a shop works, how they function, more people management, working with the crew that was there and understanding just all the stuff that you don't that I would not think that much about in terms of making sure that you had work scheduled out, making sure that they had everything they needed to do it. And luckily, Bobby was really great at teaching me the way they had done it, asking
Mm-hmm.
me if I had any ideas, and I tried to help where I could if I thought I had something that might help make it better. And then there would be times I'd be doing something and he was good. He would let me do it and then he would go, cool. But, you know, I've been doing this a long time and I can tell you a really a lot quicker way to do that. And you learn the importance of, to me, the thing I learned the most important out of that was every hour that somebody's in that shop working, is somebody's paying for it. And it's
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
understanding the fundamentals of, you know,
Yeah, I learned that I've indeed never had really employees, had part-time guys and stuff like that, but I was on a bunch of advisory boards, and I was on the Wildtech advisory board one year at the Pennsylvania Blairsville
Mm-hmm.
campus. And since he was originally a Pennsylvania guy, they had he's passed away. Chuck Lombardo, California Street
yeah,
Rods. He was SEMA board, all that stuff
oh
too,
yeah.
and built cars for concept cars for GM and big BFG deals, and just he was huge like that. That helped put the industry on a map, like when Boyd did. He was that type of era guy, and he goes, "We were building cars for Fred Warren, that has
Mm-hmm.
had Riddler cars and Foose cars and Boyd cars too, and Amber cars." And he goes, "We were sitting in the office just shooting the bull about the next project we were working on, or there was one in there. There was one in there." And he goes, he'd like to have one main guy. He liked his work, and he wanted him to. But that guy walked by the office door to get a cup of coffee at the break room and walked back by. And Fred Warren stopped him. He goes, "I better not effing be paying for that." Because that's what those guys, you got to be productive. A lot of people don't understand that hanging out at the water cooler or whatever. Or,
Yeah.
I've never really been to it. I've been to a lot of shops. I don't really see
And
that
that was the thing with
happen.
That's the thing working with Bobby when he would be in the shop working is he was always working fast and he was moving from one point to another fast.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
you come to realize that, when you're like you would know this, when you're the guy that started the shop and you're the one that's built it and you know
Mm-hmm.
how you got to account for all the hours, it's you end up working at a fast pace. And when you're somebody who works for a person, a lot of times you don't realize that. You can try and preach it over and over again about are you giving them their X number of dollars worth every hour you're working on the car?
Yeah, I got a guy that we've had the shop owner on here, but he had a customer that worked employee that now runs his own shop. And I remember we talked about, I buy these little angle brackets, gussets from like Motor State or somebody, they stamp them out and holes, 3 holes, no holes, and all that stuff. And I remember he came to help me, took a long weekend and helped me knock out some sheet metal on a project one time years ago when we still lived in Illinois. He goes, "Oh, I make those little tabs." I go, "Really?" I buy a bag of 50 for like $12. How long does it take you to make that little gusset tab? He goes, "I don't know. I might have an hour and a half of that little tab." And I go, "Well, it's cost effective to use this." And he went back when he went on his own to run his own shop. He called, and they're still friends, called his boss and apologized for the time that he had wasted fabric. Amazing, amazing fabricator, part of grade 8 cars and stuff like that. But he learned when it's your name on there and it's your, oh, I kind of milked a few things on that. There was, I mean, there's still a line of working too fast and working productive and quality and
Yeah.
stuff. But
Well,
he's
and
like,
I
"Oh,
remember when you were doing the TV show and you had a lot of people that would come in, you'd have volunteer builders every week, and you would always they would give you a hard time because you would run
yeah,
to the toolbox.
yeah."
And they're like, "What are you running for?" It's like, "We got stuff to do. We got to get
Yeah.
this done."
I did the
Like
same thing when
Yeah.
I went and helped Ride Tech on their 48-hour
yeah, you
Corvette
would
build.
run. I mean, he
Yeah.
doesn't, obviously, he doesn't run anymore, but back in the day,
Yeah.
He moves with a little pep in his step. Yeah.
Yeah.
Move with effort.
yeah, he would run around the shop like trying to get his stuff because there was deadlines, there was things that had to be done, and
Yeah.
somebody was paying for it. Yeah.
Yeah. So how many people when you were at Vintage Fab was you managing there at the shop or helping out with?
Let's see. Yeah, roughly 6 to 8. It fluctuated.
Okay. And
But
you guys
yeah.
did everything, interiors also.
Yep.
Yep.
A little bit of everything. So it was a lot to keep tabs on. I mean,
Mhm.
it takes a lot to run a shop. I learned that.
And you thought you would go I know them, and I know when you left, I'm sorry if they're going to listen to this. I'm blank on her name.
Karen,
Yeah. She says you broke their heart when you left.
I know it's
Yeah. Because it's like Josh was just like, yeah. But so you left, you weren't planning on leaving there.
no, I wasn't.
This other
I was,
opportunity where you're at now kind of is a
yeah.
big
I mean,
deal to
that
be a
was.
part of.
I wasn't looking to leave. And I tried to tell him that. I'm like, I wasn't looking to leave. I mean, really, I really wanted to try and make this work.
And
You
how
know,
long were you there?
uh,
Two
see,
years?
almost 3 years.
Okay.
That's right. Yeah, almost 3 years. And
We have this like on a lot of our guests on here and us and people that are not car people that watch this, they'll realize a lot of hot rod industry people are really not good at math.
no, I'm terrible at it. I'm not gonna lie. Uh, but yeah, that was one of the things that was always proposed was like, if you like it, maybe you can, when I'm ready to retire, you can buy the shop, and so I had seriously considered that, and I think one of the, once this opportunity was presented to me, and I had to like seriously sit down and think about things, I kind of came to realize about myself that maybe that wasn't what was best fit for me. I wanted it to be the best fit for me. And I wanted it to work out to where they were happy too. But, I know I broke their heart, but it broke my heart to go tell them too.
Mhm.
And it was really tough. I didn't want to go. I mean, and that's the thing is like, it's real easy to burn bridges. People do it all the time, but
Mhm.
I was never going to burn a bridge. And, I was practically in tears when I told Steve and Sherry.
Mm-hmm.
And the same with them too. I mean, I was the same way with them because I did, when you spend that much time with somebody, and like you said, they kind of take on a parental role when you've spent that much time with them. You feel like you're, letting them down, so to speak, but that wasn't ever the intention, and But like I said, I got offered an opportunity, and it was a good fit, and which is where I'm at today.
So tell everybody where you're at now.
So now I'm at Automotive, which is Automotive and Pertronics, uh, running the sales department.
And the Automotive Group owns few companies, right?
Yeah, so we're Automotive and Waterman, which
Oh, okay.
Waterman makes, mechanical fuel pumps. Uh, and then Pertronics, which you probably know for, being able to replace points and condenser and the
Mhm.
igniter.
And
And then we
distributors.
also
Yeah.
we also have Doug's headers, Patriot exhaust, Taylor wire, Taylor cable,
Mhm.
uh, ignition wires, and then we have JBA, which is a more for modern vehicles. It's
Mhm.
all 50 state legal. I think that covers the family of brands. But
There's kind of one that's kind of maybe can't say the name, but isn't there one more?
uh, well, Aeromotive, our company, is also owned by the same group that owns Roadster Shop.
Oh, okay.
That's what you
Okay.
were getting at. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because
So
that's
we,
never been
we
really public. It was kind of mentioned, but whenever I
yeah,
host their roast party, that's the only thing that's off limits. Don't mention that. I
don't
hear you
mention.
mention that. Yeah.
The best way to describe it,
Allegedly.
Allegedly. When it happened, that
allegedly,
year that it happened, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
we, to me, the fun part is we commingle, which is,
Mhm.
that's, uh, they we get to work closely together on a lot of stuff. But we
Which that's
don't,
why when we were trying to redo the Josh Mishler interview, he went to do the Roadster Shop Boys podcast because he can. So we kind of
Mhm.
waited a little bit. But
yeah, that's why there was a gap in there. Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
We all ask different questions though, so
We
it's
do.
fine. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I can tell you this is different than hopefully somebody gets something.
Those guys probably didn't know how cool your grandpa was.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, you actually knew him, so that was,
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but
Yep.
yeah, so like I said, we both owned by the same parent company, but we both operate completely independent of one another, other than,
Yeah.
like I said, we commingle on a lot of things, but
Yeah. So how long you been at the Automotive Group now?
I'm getting close to a year. I'm not quite a year yet.
Cool.
And
You're doing a lot of cool stuff. Like you work with builders and you get to go to the shows on the company's dime and be the
yeah,
face of the company. You guys
yeah,
also this year did at the Roadster Shop party, did an award. What's I forget the name of the award.
on the gas presented by Automotive.
And is
Yeah.
that you gave it to that Thomas, right?
Yes, he's out of Georgia, correct?
Yeah,
Thomas Engineering.
Dickerson.
Yeah,
Yeah, with the awesome blue C10. Like,
very
yeah,
deserving.
amazing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Is that award going to be for younger builders, or it just so happened that hey, keep an eye on this guy, almost like a trendsetter thing? Like from Good Guys, it's always been kind of a younger person award
I think it's
ish.
kind of always going to be for somebody who it could be younger, but not necessarily. I think it's somebody who all of a sudden just kind of popped up. And you're like, man, this guy's killing it, and
Yeah, he is very
maybe you
nice
didn't know
guy
who.
too. Yeah, we've been
Which
wanting to
I
get him
mean,
on the podcast, but we're trying to do a separate podcast of maybe Aeromotive needs to sponsor that. It could
There you
be
go.
the On the Gas, or well, they no, because they have a segment called On the Gas at the Roadster Shop podcast.
yeah,
But
that's
we've
where
been
that
trying
came
to
from.
sell it to do a every other week 30-ish and under industry person and do like a half-hour interview and try to get some of these, whether they work at a shop or in a company. I was just on the HRIA uh, builders panel a couple weeks ago that was online. You can watch it on YouTube. And that Josh Sanders from
Hmm.
upper like Seattle that had the Mopar in the HRA Armo booth
Yeah,
at
he's
SEMA,
making like some door handles and a few other
but
components.
also building, which I didn't know he took over Denny's street rods. Remember Denny's from back in the
Yeah,
day, like
I did
two-tone
not
street
know that
rods?
that's what he took
And
over.
what a cool guy. Like same thing with that Thomas. Well spoken, got his crap together. And then I told him on there, and I was like, man, this makes me feel good about the industry's good because there's young awesome people still coming out of the woodwork building stuff, but I found out he's been around a lot longer because he worked there like right out of high school or in high school. Um, but yeah, the industry's in good hands with young talent coming.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's funny because you and I are both, I know you're a little bit older than me, but at the same time, we both kind of came up in that time when they started all the like young guns
Yeah.
deals.
Mm-hmm.
We used to park in the Young Guns. I used to park next to Eric Peratt when
Yeah.
it was 25 and under, then it was like 28 and under. And yeah, I
And
realized that I used to be the young guy on some of these
yeah,
builders panels. Then it was me, Josh, which is like 27, 28, Sanders, and Kelly Ostie. And I'm older than Kelly, I'm pretty sure. I mean, I think, I
I
look
think
older
so.
than Kelly. And I was like, oh, I went from the young guy to now I'm the old guy on
you're
these
the
builders
senior
panels.
member
I
in
was
the
like,
group.
oh,
Yeah.
that hurt my
It's
heart that day.
it's funny because you grow up so much being the young guy in that industry, and then all of a sudden one day you're like, hey, I'm finding out that most of the people are I am now older than, like
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
didn't even think about. But
In my
yeah.
mind, I'm still that young guy parking in the young
Oh
guys
yeah,
area.
absolutely. I
Yeah.
joke all the time, I've seen the phrase multiple times that says, growing old's inevitable, but growing up's optional. And that's very
Mm-hmm.
true.
Yeah. What was my new Modern Rebel shirt? The object is to die old as young as possible or something like that under our friend's newest shirt company.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I have a couple of questions for you.
Sure.
My first question is, what is your favorite show that you love to go to? And then the second part of that is, what is one show that's on your bucket list that you want to go to and have never been to yet?
So I did profess my love for Hershey earlier, and that
Mm-hmm.
still
Mhm.
rings very true. But um,
How
I
big
love
is
gathering
Hershey?
at the
Like, how
Rock.
many acres is Hershey?
Uh,
It's massive, isn't it?
I couldn't put I think if you walked every row, you'd walk something like 18, 20 miles if I remember correctly.
Ooh.
I can't remember what it was, but and again, unfortunately, that's a crowd that has predominantly been older for
Mm-hmm.
years, and the fields are getting, you know, you and this is kind of irrelevant to anybody who's never been there, but it used to be impossible to get a field spot in the chocolate field. Well, now
Mhm.
I'm pretty sure if you wanted in the chocolate field, you could get a booth space in the chocolate field.
So there's
I want
older
to be
cars
in the
there like the
chocolate
brass
field.
era cars too. Where do you think this is just total interrupting your questions, Carrie?
Of
Like
course.
the guys that are into that brass era cars, I love them. Them early and even the early the 20s, 30s stuff like the Packards and Pierce Arrows. I love that stuff. I got a friend in Wichita that he's won the Amber. The Amber car is his only hot rod, and he's younger than me, younger than us. He's like your age, and he has brass era cars and weird
Mhm.
stuff. And he's like, "Yeah, I'm the totally the young guy when I go to these meets with these cars." Where do you think that part of the industry is going? Is it that their grandsons and stuff hopefully getting into that,
You
or
never know because I mean, to a degree, there's probably some that are like, yeah, I'm going to hang on to this, but there's others that are like, tell you what, I don't know what to do with this now.
yeah,
It was
Mhm.
his
you see
thing,
all that kids selling their dad's
and
grandpa's stuff? Yeah.
I've made this comment before that when I was a kid and we went to one of the very first car shows I went to was a big restores thing, and I can remember there was a whole row of Model Ts, and I can't even think of the last time I went to a car show and actually seen a Model T, and it's like
Yeah.
there used to be Model Ts everywhere, and
Yeah,
Mhm.
there was a
where did all
big
those
regional
go?
Model T club that you'd see them out on drives on the
Yeah,
weekends back when we lived in Illinois, and
Mhm.
I joked that when I was in the '80s, those guys were 90 years old, so there's no tell, there's no telling what happened with
yeah,
all that stuff, but
yeah.
Yep.
So that's your
yeah,
favorite event is Hershey? What
Hershey,
if not? It's kind of like swapping because I don't know if you know, Josh is a collector of stuff, and I have
Mhm.
when he moved, I got some stuff from him. I got his bunch of his automobile books. He
yeah.
helped me fill some early slots in my Rodder's Journal collection.
Did I know this?
Yeah, because you PayPal'd him, I think. So, or maybe I showed up with cash. I don't know,
Yeah.
but yeah, I bought some stuff from Josh when he
But
moved.
I would also say gathering at the Rock in terms of a hot rod event. That's
Okay,
that's
we've not been there. That's a
that's
very
it.
popular one.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's got to be one of my favorites. And as far as one that I'd like to go to, I haven't been to. that's really tough because I could probably rattle off 4 or 5 that I'd really like to go to. I've still
Mhm.
never been to Pebble Beach, and that's definitely probably right at the top. I haven't been to Pebble Beach, want to go to Pebble
I
Beach.
thought it was a little harder to get in. I know there's a lot of events at Pebble Beach, but Kenny Davis has been, so they really let anybody in. Like
I
if you
think
can
so. As
afford
long as
the
you're willing
ticket,
to pay the fee, they'll let you in.
yeah.
Right.
And the Kenny says you have to go. You just have
Yeah.
you have to if you're a car person. I pay attention to it online with the coverage of like that morning drive when a bunch of them go on the drive. I mean, there's so much other stuff than just the show on the greens of the golf course that like Ring Brothers debuted a car there and at the Quail, and so
Mhm.
is Andy
Mhm.
Leach. And I learned like the ticket to get into the Quail event is like $1,200 a person.
Yeah, that's also why I've never
Yeah,
been because I can't
Right.
wait for any of the companies I've worked for to loop that into a
Yeah.
yeah.
company trip. But that's a lot of money to put up just to go for the
I
fun.
got I got a weird concept car thing that I'm doing for myself. It will be a few years yet till that one's probably done. But I'd like to take it to like one of the concourse types events, whether it fits into a slot because it's like a make believe concept car from the 50s, or just like I know Tom at Saltworks has done that. Like, oh, we took this bare metal car to show our fabrication work, and we have a booth there on the outskirts of whatever. And I've just never, and Rob Itis was like, oh, go to this one or this one would work. And I'd like to go to attend. I mean, there's one up in Lexington, Kentucky, but we're always busy. And I'd like to go to one of them concourse events just to see it. I missed the one. I really wanted to go to the one in Vegas, and I didn't make it there. And but yeah,
They're
there's
fantastic. I
yeah.
love going to events like that, seeing stuff you would never see otherwise.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, Barrett Jackson's good. We went to Barrett Jackson, ain't been in like 10 or 11 years, and you get to see stuff there.
Mhm.
We didn't buy, we're not buyers or sellers or something, but it's a museum. You get to see a little
Oh
Mhm.
bit
yeah,
of everything there. It's
Mhm.
really, yeah,
absolutely.
walk around and look at everything. Yeah,
Yep. All right, boys, we've been talking for 2 hours now.
of course. Yeah.
It
So I'm
goes.
sure there's stuff that we didn't talk
Oh,
about
I'm
that we
sure.
talked about on the first one.
Yep, for
Um,
sure.
car wise, do you have any toys now? What have you had for cars we didn't talk about? You had when you lived here, you had a 300 convertible that you kept at Gil Viggle's place, but you end up selling that, right?
Yep. Uh, I currently have nothing in my stable behind besides boring, mundane daily cars. Uh,
The big red 58 Buick,
yeah,
that should have been a keeper car. That was cool.
I would have kept that car if Buckaroo wouldn't have went out of business.
Uh,
But that's
Funny
the
how that
car that
works.
I wish I still had to this day. I loved that
yeah.
car. Uh,
Yeah, we'll send pictures back and forth of because I know he likes big 50s cars and so do I. And it's like, and then you knowing what all that stuff cost at the advanced plating shop is like, dude, whatever that car costs, it's going to cost you 3 times to replate everything.
Mhm.
yeah, and it's funny that that's the one thing about I'll look at cars for sale that have good, like a big 50s car that's got good chrome on it, and I'm like, man, you couldn't do the chrome on that car for what they want for it.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
like you're a fool not to buy it,
I'm kind
type
of ready
thing.
for
But
painted bumpers to come back on cars. Like Eddie's from Iowa had you're sneering at me.
Chevelle,
I'm not meaning to.
That Chevelle they had at Pomona was all painted bumpers, and I dug it. I'm
yeah,
sorry, Stephen Sherry, but I'm painting the bumpers on my OBS truck because I want to because the '90s they did that, and
Mhm.
that's when people started painting bumpers when chrome started getting expensive. But
yeah,
did that C10, we painted the bumpers on it.
Mhm.
Yeah,
yeah. So I had the Camaro was the first car, the '71 Camaro. Then I had the '58 Buick. I had a smattering of other project cars that I thought I wanted to do, and then you know passed on. I had a '57 300 hardtop and a '32 pickup that I was trying to do at one time, but I sold them to buy that '57 convertible. This is how I ended up eventually clearing
yeah.
out
You were gonna piece together a 32 truck because you bought
a pair of
like some
doors.
upper door frames or something from
Yeah,
me once that were pretty sketchy that I was just
I've
gonna
still
hang on the wall.
got the renderings of that truck, and I mean, I would still build that truck if I got to
Mhm.
that point, you know. But then again, the 32 truck is just so impractical. And I don't mean that like, I mean, as somebody who has 2 kids, the idea of building if I'm gonna build a car, I probably need to build a 2-door sedan or something like that. So
Yeah, or a big wagon.
a 50s car that has,
Carrie's on a wagon kick right now. So
yeah,
I love 20, 28, 29 Model A trucks. I ain't fitting in that. My knees hurt just looking at them. I love them.
No, there's no room.
Yeah. No.
Nope.
So as we wrap this up, who do you need to thank? Anybody that you've mentioned, you want to mention again? Thanks for somebody. Thank your wife again. Or
I was going to thank people. Obviously, I thank my mom and dad for never telling me that I should be a doctor or a lawyer or something else. That they were always okay with, finding a career in cars. Neither one of my grandparents, my grandfather and my grandmother, they've obviously passed on, but they had a lot to do with it. And got to thank, we mentioned Steve Anderson, Scott Colleen, Steve and Sherry Tracy, Bobby and Karen Schumacher. Definitely my wife, who has been supportive the whole way, and probably put a lot of things that she would like to do on the back burner because I was doing something. And just the love and support of the family, and all the there's just so many people I should be thanking, but because this industry's all connections, and one person connects you to another, and you never know what's going to come out of it, and luckily that's where this is, so.
Well, I'm going to say, we say this a lot. We're honored to call you guys friends. And I'm going to multiply the person that said this earlier. The industry is better with Josh Mishler in it. And all the places
thanks.
you've been at, you've always done a respectable job, always left on good terms. And I'm really happy for you at your new location that you're at there. So, yeah.
I appreciate that. That means a lot.
Yeah. So, okay, we want to thank Josh Mishler for being a guest on the Strange Motion Way.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, where can they find your guys' social media pages, your website for all your companies? You know them all?
You can go to automotiveinc.com. You can go to Pertronics.com. And then obviously you can visit any of the other brands on there as well. Obviously, we're on Instagram, Facebook, Pertronics, and Automotive. And then if you want to keep up with what I got going on, you can follow me on Instagram at TailFinEra. So.
And send us a picture of some of them coffee pots. We'll put them
I can do that. I can do that.
Perfect.
Thanks, Josh.
Thanks, Josh.
Thank you.
The Strange Motion Way podcast, brought to you by
Royal Purple. Premium synthetic motor oils and high-performance chemicals have been designed to improve performance, provide long-term protection, and give you the confidence to push your vehicle to the limit. Royal Purple Premium Synthetic Motor Oils.
Hey welders, ready to upgrade your gear and save some serious dough in the process? The Miller Build with Blue Savings and Rebate Program has you covered. Find amazing deals and cashback rebates on a wide range of Miller products, from welders to plasma cutters and everything in between, all backed by our 3-year warranty. Don't let this opportunity pass you by. Take advantage of the Miller Build with Blue program now. Visit us online or stop by your nearest Miller distributor today to start saving.